everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this very inspiring event. Um, so, today I would like to talk about a journey of change, a journey of making things happen, and a journey of making a difference with diversity and inclusion. And when we talk about diversity, it means more than the visible traits like gender, race, or age, but also the invisible traits such as diversity of thoughts and opinions. I was born and raised in Indonesia and was based in Danone, Indonesia back then, before I started this role as the global D&I head at Danone headquarters in Paris, when they asked me to initiate these new functions and a journey of D&I for Danone worldwide. And I knew very little about this topic back then. And when you ask someone in Indonesia about what does diversity mean to them, they would answer you with gender equality or a religion diversity. And similarly, while the word racism resonates very strongly with people born and raised in the US, it may not resonate the same way in the other parts of the world. So diversity needs to be looked at within the context in the different countries. While inclusion is about creating an environment where everyone is valued and can bring themselves to work. So I just put here an easier way to clarify what does diversity and inclusion mean. So here we say that a famous quote saying that an easy way to describe diversity and inclusion is that diversity is about getting invited to the party and inclusion is about getting asked to dance. So it's not so fun, right? If you are invited to a party and you are not being asked to dance. So at Danone, we call it inclusive diversity, and we shorten it as ID. It means that we want everyone in Danone to bring their ID to work. So at the beginning of the journey, everyone was asking me, what is the business case? Well, there are many. There are many of business cases for why diversity and inclusion is important. And we can start with a research of McKinsey. You can find it online that saying that they have researched many companies around the world and saying that more diverse companies board in terms of gender and ethnic diversity, the more profitable the company is. And there's also a business case of increasing expectations of our stakeholders. And we can start with expectation of our employees. Because nowadays, if you want to recruit talents, and even the younger talents, they would look at how the companies are addressing the topic of diversity and inclusion. And COVID actually has brought accelerations to this topic, especially the implementation of it in the companies such as Danone, and where people are thinking about the future of work and how flexibility plays an important role and how companies need to be inclusive in terms of how they are allowing their people to work from different parts of the world and from how their personal situations are allowing them to do so. And there's also an increasing expectations from our consumers, from our customers. A lot of different movements around the world, from Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, religions, diversity. It's also a big topic in the society. And people are expecting companies addressing this topic inside the company, but also how we are tackling this topic within the community, but also how we also addressing this topic towards our consumers. Expectations are also increasing from our investors. So if you can see that if you are public listed companies, there are more and more requirements from the shareholders to be really good and to be really showing that you are doing and you are improving your numbers in terms of gender diversity, for example, or how you implement such policies like parental leave in your business units across the world. So the business case is there, but I believe that more importantly, I would say that D&I doesn't really need a business case. It is just the right things to do for us and for the society. And it is probably easier to talk about diversity and inclusion than making these two words a reality, especially in a company such as Danone. And as I talk about a journey at the beginning, when we are going on to take on a trip, we normally will have an idea of where we want to go and why we want to go there and how we want to go. So when Danone embarked on our diversity and inclusion journey about 6 years ago, we were also going through these processes. And I would like to share with you some key steps that probably you can also learn from how we started the journey at Danone. Number one, it is important to start by assessing on where we are in terms of many things. So we did a lot of analysis, gender data, not only gender data, but also nationalities data, but also looking at the data on people survey results, where our employees already gave their insights or their voices on how inclusive they think the company was at the beginning of the journey. So it is also important to look at where the company is in terms of how external stakeholders are looking at us in this topic. So talking to the consumers, talking to as well as the investors, talking to customers, our partners, and also looking at indexes, the different indexes, and where the company is at the beginning of the journey. And then, of course, based on that, then we will define where we want to go. And it is super important to do this at the beginning, to define what success looks like in the next 5 or 4 to 5 years. What will be our key battles? Because we cannot do everything at once. Define focus areas and make the difference. We have a triangle strategy approach. The first one, it always starts with our people. Of course, we need to make sure that Danone has an inclusive environment where everyone in Danone, like I said before, can bring their ID to work. And then the second one is it has to resonate with our brands. Our brands, because we have powerful brands at the global level, at the local level, and our brands can really influence the society, the conversation in the society, can really make an impact, can really bring impact also at the society level. So here we need to make sure that our brands also resonates ID in the way they communicate, but also in the way they build plans on the ground. And last but not least, we cannot change alone. We need partners. So we create impact together with our partners. So the people brands partners are the holistic approach that Danone has been using. And I will give you at the end an example of how we combine this people brands partners and how we create real impact in the society level in Mexico. Number 3, top down, bottom up, and global approach. So we need to make sure that top down is super important, and this means that we have to get the buy-in from our CEO, and our CEO needs and his and N-1 needs to walk the talk. So, for example, the women's talents in our shortlist candidates, where are they? I will not start this meeting before I see them on the list. And it's important that the CEOs give these messages and also the N-1 wherever they go to business meetings. And it's also important to have bottom-up movements because we need people on the ground to really make things happen. They are champions. They can make things happen really on the ground. So we have around 400 champions around the world that are really passionate, and they work with the local HR and the local leadership teams to make things happen based on their local DID roadmaps. So we call it global approach because, as I mentioned before, it is not diversity cannot be approached one directions. There is no one size fits all. It needs to be modified and adapted locally as well. So these are people who are working together to make things happen on the ground. Number 4, it is, in my experience, it is so important, and also it can help also the acceleration of the topic and of the implementations internally if first we make a public commitment with tangible points that we want to implement. And here we give example of he for she. So he for she is one movement that was created by UN Women in 2014. And the importance of this is the involvement and the engagement of men. So we cannot build gender equal world without the involvement of men, without the active participation of men. So we became he for she champions in 2017, one of the he for she champions. And we make a public commitment. At that time, it was announced by Anne Hathaway at the UN meeting in New York. And we mentioned that our commitment is to implement a gender-neutral parental policy around the world in all across our business units by 2020. And this was like paid parental leave that is gender-neutral. So it doesn't matter if it is the man or the woman who take the leave. And it's 18 weeks of primary caregivers for the birth parent and also including the adoptive parents as well. And we engage the men in the conversations. So here you can see that how we engage all the men leaders around the world, that they are he for she, and they are joining the movement to make a more gender equal world. Number 5. Again, it's easier to talk about D&I than to really implement it and through real actions and really make improvements. So it's very important to really measure, track, and improve. And this is how we have been progressing in the past 5-6 years. So we have been improving really the women executive populations from 19% to 33%, which is quite a lot of improvement in this 6 years. And of course, also the directors' populations from 35 to 43%. And it's the same with underrepresented nationalities that we have defined at the beginning as what success looks like in Danone in the next 5 years. So this is the very important step in making things happen for D&I. So, as I mentioned here, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I would like to invite you to join me and the thousands of people here in the retail and logistics industry to make your first step. And coming here today is already your first step. And please think of how to make your first step in making D&I happens in your company. And with this, I would like to close with this video that hopefully will inspire you to make your next step. It is a video of how we engage our brands and partners to create real impact in Mexico. A very strong example of how we implement our people, brands, and partners approach to make Mexico a more gender equal world. So thank you so much for inviting me. I hope to see you in the next time when we already have done a better improvement of our journey in our company. Thank you, and I will let the video to play.
Me parece increíble que esté sucediendo esto.
La impotencia.
Que tiene que cambiar, ¿no?
Bienvenidos a la mini ciudad, donde vamos a jugar a ser grandes. ¿Quién quiere ser piloto?
Yo.
Científico. A ver, levante su mano. ¿Quién quiere ser juez? Tú no puedes ser juez, porque eres niña. Voy a tener que elegir por cada 9 niños a una sola niña. Y tú no vas a poder ser científica. Solo los niños pueden ser pilotos. Las niñas no. Señorita Zapata, por favor, venga. Le toca servir porque es mujer. ¿Se esforzaron en hacer las galletas? Sí. Aquí está su paga. Aquí está su paga, la mitad.
Me parece totalmente injusto.
Es un error, no está bien lo que estás diciendo.
No, no es un error. Es la realidad. En nuestro país, las oportunidades de tus hijos y tus hijas están condicionadas por su género.